Hey followers, this is Movie Maker Doug 55. Today I'm interviewing Danny Pelfrey, who was the composer for Joseph, King of Dreams. Let's see if he answers the phone.
Hello.
Hey, is this Danny Pelfrey?
Yeah, hey Doug.
Yeah, I hope things are well for you today.
Yes, and for you, how's it going?
Going good. How are you holding up in strange times such as COVID?
Just fine, thanks. We're doing good here.
That's good to hear. And you're in Los Angeles?
Well, actually, we live up the coast near San Luis Obispo.
Ah, but you are in California.
Yes, but yeah, I was in Los Angeles for about 30 years.
Okay, that's really interesting. So yeah, I'm doing good in COVID times. There were a number of times this year where I got partly sick, which I think might have been COVID, but I
Mhm.
fought it off by making healthier decisions as far as eating healthy and bodybuilding.
Sure, yeah. There's things we can do. I know that we have some medically progressive physicians that have told us that if you maintain your vitamin D level and zinc and if I think vitamin C something else that you're like vitamin D is so important. If you have that at the right level, you won't get it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think making healthy decisions like washing will help as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah, which we all, could do better, I suppose, but we try and be very diligent about that.
Yeah. Anyway, so I have a list of questions about your involvement in the production of Joseph, King of Dreams, and hopefully you have the answer for them.
Well, I'll try.
Yeah, can you believe it's been almost 20 years since it came out?
Yeah, I think about that. That has crossed my mind from time to time, and I guess the answer to your question is no. I can't really believe that, but it's encouraging to see. I mean, I do hear from people, and I have across the years about how it affected them, and people have shown it in their churches, and a lot of people have gotten the songs and wanted to sing them, and it seems to be kind of a timeless piece. So I'm glad for that.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know what the reason was that it was released only on video, but I really think it would have been just as successful as Prince of Egypt if it was in theaters.
Well, that's a good point. I think, and I don't know either. I can only guess that that was the way it was always intended to be done, and I think of course, Prince of Egypt was a huge budget, big giant film. This was designed to be direct to video, and was designed as a prequel, obviously, because the story of
Yeah.
Joseph occurs before the story of Moses. But yeah, I guess that's just the way they were always planning to do it, and probably I'm sure budget was part of it. I mean, they were maybe not necessarily planning to spend that kind of money on the marketing of it, because to market a film like Prince of Egypt probably costs a whole lot more than a direct-to-video film like Joseph.
Yeah, for sure. So, my first question on the list is, where are you originally from?
Originally, I'm from West Virginia.
Nice. That's really cool.
Yeah, a long way from California.
Yeah, it's a long way, like thousands of miles.
Yeah, yeah, in other ways too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How did
So,
you begin your music career?
um, well, I started playing guitar when I was 9 years old, and I just kind of went from there. I just heard, actually what got me started was Chet Atkins. I heard Chet Atkins, and like most people, something lights the fuse for all of us. Something makes we hear something or see an instrument in a case, and we go, "Wow, I got to make that sound. I don't know what that is, but I want to do that." So that's what started it for me, and then I got into classical guitar, and actually classical guitar and Chet Atkins are fairly closely related. But from there, I got into, of course, Cream and the Beatles, and then jazz and stuff like that. But that's how it started for me. And I've done many things in the music business too. By the way, I don't know if this is another one of your questions, but I've been a touring musician and a composer, arranger, conductor, orchestrator, producer. I've done lots of different things.
That's really incredible.
Yeah, I've been very blessed, no question.
Yeah, when I was younger, I tried learning how to play the French horn, and for a period of time I tried out for my middle school band, but the problem was, at the time, I had a little bit of some sort of illness that my parents assumed were probably seizures, and they were interfering with my abilities to play the instrument.
Sure, and it's a challenging instrument too. So physically challenging.
Yeah, it is, because you have to move your lips correctly.
Yes,
to get the sound.
Among many other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it didn't work out, but now that that illness has kind of not spiked for about 10 years, I'm contemplating that when COVID slows down, I might try to learn how to play it again.
Good for you.
Yeah, I hope that'll work out.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, thank you. So how did you get your role as the composer for the soundtrack of Joseph?
Well, I had, let me see if I can even remember. I had heard that, and I'm trying to remember who from. I can't remember if it was my agent at the time or a mutual friend, but I had heard that that the film was being made, and I managed to get myself on a short list of people that were being considered, and I created some demonstration material that that got the filmmakers excited, and they brought me in.
That's great. You were lucky, I'll say.
Yeah, you can say that about getting anything, really, especially in the Hollywood music business, because there's so many people doing it, and really everyone is very good. It's just really a matter of what the best fit is for the project. And yes, you're right. It was very fortunate that I got to do it, no question.
Yeah, and one of the things that Penny told me in my Prince of Egypt interview with her was apparently they didn't know any of the actors that were coming to the audition, and they listened to their voices and selected the voice.
Good, yeah. Well, interestingly, orchestral musicians are auditioned that way too. They're auditioned behind a screen, so the people listening have no idea who it is or what they look like.
Yeah, they want to get the right person, and they don't want, conflicts of interest, like, they could have been a Patrick Stewart fan, and that could have, affected the production if it didn't work out,
That's correct, yes. So that was the right thing to do. Do you know where Penny is these days and what she's doing? I haven't talked to her for a long time.
Yeah, I got a hold of her through Facebook. She does have a Facebook page, and I enjoyed the conversation with her, and it turned out very well. But the thing is, she's a high-ranking producer, and so there were a number of points during the conversation where we had to pause because she got called,
Oh, right.
But it turned out well, and it's one of my most successful videos on my YouTube.
Oh, that's neat.
But yeah, you can find her on Facebook. She's on there. So yeah, did you ever meet David Campbell during production?
Yes, I did. I produced his vocals. That was another one of my responsibilities.
Ah.
Yeah.
What was he like?
Everybody was really good. He was the same way. He was very high energy, very talented, very how do I say, very collaborative. Really willing to do whatever needed to be done to make it great.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And just curious, what was the reason that he was selected for Joseph's singing voice? Because he does sound a little bit different than Ben Affleck.
Well, that's a real challenge to get, and it can be done, and you can get close, but it's a real challenge to get somebody to sound exactly. I mean, there has to be some degree of suspension of disbelief, let's say, because it's pretty hard to get someone to sound exactly like the actor if they're two different people. I think if it maintains credibility, I think the reason that he was selected is that he just sounded youthful, he sounded powerful, he sounded compelling, and in a way that the filmmakers liked. I mean, it's projects like this are very collaborative. There's a lot of people making decisions. Not really people like Penny and other people. Jeffrey Katzenberg was involved. So the people like me. I mean, our job was to produce these people and make everything sound as presentable and say, okay, well, this is what we like, but it's really not up to us. It's up to them because it's their project. They're paying for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And honestly, I really think that David Campbell, in any case, was the perfect one.
Oh, yeah.
His voice was incredible.
Yeah, and he's a great singer. I have no idea what's become of him, but he was clearly the winner. I mean, he was clearly the right choice when we could tell when we were working on it.
Yeah, and to tell you a little bit of what he's been up to lately, he was awarded the Order of Australia last year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good for him.
Yeah, it's the medal for now, but I think he'll move up a rank eventually. I really think so.
Mm-hmm. Good. I'm glad to hear it because you never know. Sometimes people don't stay in the business, and sometimes they do something else.
Yeah, for sure. What was writing You Know Better Than I like?
Well, the composer of the songs was John Bucchino. I produced and arranged the songs and composed the score, the instrumental stuff. But that song, I know that, and I worked with John pretty extensively on all the songs, but I know that one just kind of came out. That one, I don't think in a project like this, there can be a lot of revisions and refinements and stuff. I think that one just came out and it was correct and it was perfect. That's obviously a very powerful song and the centerpiece of the film. And interestingly, that one came out quite easily.
Yeah.
Which is rare.
For sure. And I remember when I was growing up, back when VHS was still around, yeah. I used to watch the movie Chicken Run, and there was a trailer for Joseph, King of Dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it was Prince of Egypt connected because the animation was so similar and they looked so the same,
Sure.
And I remember going to school or preschool or first grade around that time, and a lot of people at my school were talking about the movie and asking me if I had seen it, and I don't know why, but I didn't watch it until I was like 10 years old when I saw it at my cousin's house. And then when I saw it, I was like, why didn't I see this sooner? This is a beautiful movie.
Well, that's interesting. Wow. Yeah, well, that's good to hear. See, the thing is, those of us that work on this thing, we don't always, on things like this, we don't always know. You make it and you put it out there, and you don't always know how it's received or who's seeing it and under what circumstances. So it's really good to hear that.
Yeah, and I really liked it. And my favorite part was unquestionably when Joseph sang You Know Better Than I. That was the most powerful scene of the film, in my opinion.
Oh, sure. That was the center. That was the heart of the film, the center of it, yeah. No question.
Yeah. So what was Penny Finkelman-Cox like to work with?
Oh, she was great. Everybody was great. She's a very creative thinker. And, she did her part really well. They were all very, very. DreamWorks was an artist-friendly environment, and so it was a good place to be involved creatively. I enjoyed very much doing that.
Good to hear. Just a quick question. Is it true that DreamWorks was formed when one of the producers split from Disney, or is that incorrect?
Oh, that I can't be sure of. I know that I know a little bit about that, though. I think it's really just nothing more than what's publicly known. But I know that Jeffrey Katzenberg was with Disney for a long time. I believe he was part of Lion King and probably any number of other things. And I think that I know that he wanted to do his own. They had their own vision, obviously. So did Spielberg and Geffen, and they had their own idea. And it was an incredible company. They had a huge reach, and they did a lot of great work.
That's good to hear. So, did you ever meet Mark Hamill and Ben Affleck during production?
No, I didn't meet any actors. By the time I was involved, their parts were done. They do their parts ahead of time, and then the animation is done to them, and the songs obviously were not sung by them, so I worked with whoever the singers happened to be on the different songs.
Okay.
Yeah, but I did not meet any actors.
Okay. I was a little bit surprised to hear that Mark Hamill was Luke Skywalker's actor.
Oh, you didn't know that?
Well, the thing was, I knew I wasn't really a Star Wars fan growing up, but when The Force Awakens came out, that's when I started getting into it a bit, and then I saw that the actor of Luke Skywalker was Mark Hamill. Like, that was the first time I had heard of him.
Right. Yeah. Well, obviously you're younger than I am, but I knew. Of course, I did know Star Wars when it came out. I had followed it since the first one, to a degree. I mean, I haven't really gotten that into all of them. There were so many that kind of lost me at one point. But yeah. So I knew that Mark Hamill was doing. He's done, I believe, quite a few voiceover and animated type projects. I'm not really sure of it all, but I think he got pretty active in that area.
Yeah, and when I realized that he was the voice of Jude, or is it? I think it's Jude, right?
I think you're right. Yes.
Yeah, when I realized he voiced Jude, that I was like, man, I never pictured a sci-fi actor going to a religious production. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I can't possibly know his reasons and stuff like that, but
I bet he enjoyed the role, considering how great the movie is.
Yeah, I would imagine he must have been drawn to the subject matter in some way, but on that point, I really don't have any idea.
Yeah. Did you work with Ken Sumura at all?
Yes, he was involved. There were a lot of people involved. Directors and producers, some more than others. I mean, some had a bigger role and some didn't. So, yes, Ken was involved to a slightly lesser degree. I think his role in that film was as producer, but I'm not sure.
I think it was too, but probably not as big as Penny.
Well, right. Penny was had a more executive position. There's no question about that. But the director, his name was Rob. I can't remember his last name, but yeah, I worked with him more often.
Okay, was it Rob Ramirez, I believe, or?
Yes, that's correct. It's Rob Ramirez.
Okay, what was the reception of the film when it came out in November of 2000?
Well, as far as I know, it was very well received. I mean, it's a little harder to gauge because it wasn't a theatrical release. At the time, it would be based on, I guess, how many videos were sold or rented, and that information I don't know. But all I do know about it is that, like I said, people still talk to me about it today. So I think it was I think it's been very well received, and it's had a really good life, and I think it'll continue on because it's a timeless story, and it was done, at a very high level.
Yeah, and ever since I interviewed Penny last month, I've been telling my former schoolmates from when I lived in Colorado about, my interview with her, and some of them were very impressed because they grew up with it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
she was definitely a higher up at Dreamworks, and I just went to her Facebook page, and it says she's an independent now. So I don't know what she's doing, but probably she has plenty of opportunities because she is a very highly respected person in the business.
yeah, and I'm really lucky that I got to interview her. That's really cool.
Yeah, that was neat. I was happy to hear that. So that was good. Good for you. I was still trying to figure out how you did it, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I have a special talent for getting in touch with a lot of people.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got in touch with me.
For sure. So, what was it like seeing the film for the first time when you saw it?
Well, it's interesting. The reality is, by the time you actually see the finished film, you've seen it thousands of times. In pieces. Because you work on it. The film took. I think it took about 2 years, and that's you don't work on it constantly and only that for 2 years, but you're working on it off and on for about 2 years. So you've been so steeped in it, it's a little hard to have a reaction like a normal viewer would who's seeing it for the first time. But I think the reaction, though, would be, wow, we did a pretty good job. This is really good. This really comes out. It works.
Yeah.
So I think that was more the reaction of relief that we did it. We did a good job.
Yeah, you should be very proud. And I should probably tell you a story that I have with You Know Better Than I.
Sure.
A few years back, I was in a bad spot in my personal life due to circumstances. In 2016, I was in the middle of a parental divorce, and I had a roller coaster of a senior year in high school that I didn't enjoy. And there was an evening where I contemplated on suicide, and I had sleeping pills in my hand prepared to overdose. And I'm not kidding you when I say this, but whether this was divine or not, the radio played the song You Know Better Than I.
Oh, wow.
And hearing that song convinced me to continue on.
That's incredible. Well, I would say that that's definitely divine.
Yeah, because it just seemed too odd of a coincidence that when I'm contemplating on ending my life, that beautiful song that I grew up with, which is about trusting God,
Yes.
that played at that time, so it's unquestionably divine.
Unquestionably, and hopefully now you still trust in God more every day, and still do.
Yeah, and I've ever since that year I've gotten better in my Christianity.
Oh, see, that's definitely divinity. That's a real blessing. That's the Holy Spirit reaching out to you right there through that song. See, that's how omnipresent God is. He knew that you were vulnerable, and He reached out to you just then. And kudos to you for responding. And because not everyone, some people might turn their back.
Yeah, and I had a cousin that turned his back a while ago, and I've always wondered if there was anything that I could have done to help him.
Yeah. Boy, it's so hard to know. I have a friend too that took his own life a few years ago, and I wonder the same thing. I know what you mean, because that's kind of what I did. I looked back after getting that news. I looked back and thought, wow, what could I have done?
Yeah.
And the answer is I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, neither do I.
I don't know. In this case, the fellow he had been hit by a car 20 years prior, and he was in constant pain for like 20 years, and it just kept getting worse and worse, and he couldn't really walk or stand, and I think it just became too much for him.
Yeah, that's tough.
But how do you intervene in that situation? I just wouldn't know.
Yeah, and I wouldn't know either. Yeah. So, just curious, what made Joseph so special that a critic said it would join The Prince of Egypt and The Lion King as an instant classic?
Well, I think it has to come down to just the story. I mean, I think people, I don't know how biblically sound people are these days. I think we tend to live in a more lukewarm world where people don't follow the scripture that much these days. People have turned to more worldly things. And the point of that is sometimes I think people forget that the power and timelessness of these stories. And I would speculate that, of course, it was very well done and very well produced, but really the main thing is that the story itself was allowed to be told in a true, undiluted fashion. And I think that's what would make that happen. And the same with Prince of Egypt, I would say. They actually told the story without monkeying around with it.
And they told the story without being too preachy.
Yeah, well, the story doesn't need anything. It doesn't need any help from anybody. And they just let the story happen. And I think that's all you need.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Were you involved in the production of Prince of Egypt at all, or no?
No, I wasn't, although it was in production when Joseph was starting, so I was involved in a peripheral way, like with Hans Zimmer, because they wanted him to, they wanted what he was doing in Prince of Egypt to have an influence on what I was doing, because they were related pieces. And they wanted him to ensure that, the way Joseph was being done would dovetail with Prince of Egypt. So I was involved in that way, but no, I didn't work on Prince of Egypt at all.
Okay. So what are you doing these days in strange times as these with COVID?
Well, I have I can't remember. I think it's been 3 years ago now. I did another, an independent film. It was another Bible story. It's the story of the woman at the well, and which was done, by an independent guy. It wasn't a studio film, but it came out great. It was done in Nashville, recorded in Nashville. But nowadays, I have a music production catalog, and which I enjoy writing for, and it's distributed by people. Companies, I should say, all around the world, internationally. And so I produce the stuff here mostly by myself, and we send it out, and it goes all around the world, and people use it. So we're really enjoy that business.
That's great to hear. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
So what instruments were used in You Know Better Than I?
Oh man, it's been a long time, but I can say the palette for the film was traditional orchestra. Traditional orchestra, and there were some Middle Eastern instruments used, which I borrowed from Hans, lyres and stuff like that, and ouds, and Middle Eastern stringed instruments, and wind instruments. Ney was used, I think, quite a bit on the whole score. But that's pretty much what it was. It was traditional orchestra with some Middle Eastern instruments of various kinds.
Nice. Middle Eastern is perfect because that's around the area where it took place, the story.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's what we were trying to do, was evoke that flavor. And the orchestra gives it a richness and a timeless quality. So the challenge is to blend those things artfully. So you create this recipe that, makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. So this is my last question on the list.
Okay.
What does your future look like as far as music?
Oh man, I wouldn't have any idea now. I mean, had you asked me that before March, I might have had a different answer. But honestly, I don't know. I think the world has changed in ways that we cannot anticipate at the moment.
Yeah.
But what I would like to do is, I would seek out faith-based productions that are discerning and talk about the real truth, and don't are not lukewarm in their faith and stuff like that. If I can find things like that to work on, I'll be satisfied.
For sure, and I'm actually a screenwriter. I'm looking at a career in the film industry, and I've written a couple biblical screenplays myself.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, and one of them I just published this year, and I'm hoping to bring it to Hollywood eventually.
Neat, yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to keep you in mind and maybe suggest you if it ever becomes a movie.
Well, yeah, do. I mean, I'm interested in those kinds of things. I don't know what the situation is like in Hollywood. It seems like there's periodically a desire for making faith-based films, and then it seems to fade. So you have to time it right. Good luck with that. I mean, I hope that it gets made. We need more films like that for sure.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So I have to conclude it now, but let's keep in touch, alright?
Sure, thank you. God bless, Doug.
God bless you, Danny, and we'll keep in touch, and I'll let you know when my productions come out.
Please do, yeah, you know how to find me.
Alrighty, thank you.
All the best.
All the best. Okay.